right, so look, here's the deal, guys. We got our football team back, maybe. So, if you missed it at the end of yesterday's show, we, near the end of the show, told you the poll result from our poll yesterday, and I was stunned, capital S stunned, by our poll result. It was a very simple question yesterday, and it was this question: Are the Eagles a Super Bowl contender? 40% of people said no. Now, I mean, it's nice that 60% said yes, and I think the 60% are right, but I was shocked that 40% of people said no. And I want to get into this today at 215-592-9494 and find out where you sit on this. Are you part of the 60% that thinks the Eagles are a Super Bowl contender, which I am in that camp, or the 40% that say they are not? And I'll ask you why, or why not. And I'll just ask this rhetorical question to start, although maybe it's not so rhetorical and you want to literally answer it. Am I missing something? That 40% of people say they're not a Super Bowl contender. Look, you can weigh in at 215-592-9494. And let me say this before we go any further. I have been as down as anybody on Jalen. I have been as down on anybody on this offense at various times. I have been more bored this year watching Eagles games than maybe at any point in my life when they've been, better than 3-13. I mean, 3-13 is a different kind of boring. But, I mean, let's be real. It's been kind of a boring year. And yet, despite that, they are 9-5. Despite that, they are in first place and will win the division. They are going to have a home playoff game, one minimum, maybe more. They did win the Super Bowl last year. They do have most of the offense back that won the Super Bowl last year, and a rebuilt defense that, to me, looks pretty freaking good. So when I asked the question, are they a Super Bowl contender? Honestly, I only asked it yesterday. I mean, I'm being very candid. I just wanted to kind of get an assessment of where people were at with very little inclination that it could lead to a Tuesday conversation about the legitimacy of the Eagles as a Super Bowl contender. But then at the end of the show, I'm met with 40% of people saying they're not. I found that, frankly, yesterday insane. And I want to hear from you at 215-592-9494. And let me be clear, guys, I'm not doing cartwheels, all right? This isn't like last year where you felt like there was a mission. I can't say I feel the same mission. They've already lost more games this year than they did all of last year. I understand that. We all know that. 5 losses represents more than they lost the entire year last year. But I do believe in the coach. I know I fear nobody in the NFC, even if they have to go on the road. I fear no one in the AFC. This isn't like a scenario where 10 years ago, if you're in the Eastern Conference in the NBA, if you get through it, there's Golden State with Stephen Durant and Clay and Draymond. There's none of that. So I am shocked.
There are some good teams out there.
There's some good teams, but there's no one that scares me. No one scares me.
The AFC's got some new people, some new folks.
All you gotta do is beat
in the
one of them.
NFC have some new folks.
Look,
like the Seahawks are strangely good.
And I don't fear them. So I ask you today at 215-592-9494, am I missing something to be so stunned by that poll result? And tell us where you come down. The 60% that think the Eagles are a Super Bowl contender, tell me why. And the 40% that think they are not, tell us why. Because I was really, and again, 215-592-9494, I was truly stunned by that poll result, and that doesn't happen too often around here. John, what do you make of it?
I've said for a while that this team feels like a playoff team, but not a Super Bowl team. This team feels like a team that is inconsistent to the point where I worry about the inconsistency. So, I maintain that. That's the way that I feel. This is a playoff team, not necessarily a Super Bowl team, but the fact that they won the Super Bowl last year means they have, an increased probability that this group of guys can get it done. That gives them a better shot. That recent experience, just getting over the top in postseason football. They're locked in as the 2 or 3 seed. They're not going to fall to the 4 seed.
They're not.
Because the NFC South right now, whoever's going to win it has 7 wins.
Yeah.
They're not going to fall below the 3. But so that basically means they're going to play the Packers or the 49ers.
Pretty much.
And to me, that's kind of a toss-up. I feel like I know a lot less about the 49ers this season, but man, they've got 10 wins. They've been performing at a high level, at a high clip out there on the West Coast. I just, I don't know. I know on defense, we're going to smother people for the most part, and if we're not right away smothering people, we'll figure out a way, and that group will cover everyone, and we can get it done, and they'll keep us close. You know, we held that Raiders team to 75 yards, which is the fewest that they've gained, since 1961, which
since
was
the AFL.
The Raiders' second year in existence,
right? When
they were just trying to cling to anything to stay afloat, like just trying to stay in the league and a team. 75 yards is masterful defense, even though it was against a really pitiful team. Our defense can play with the best of them and keep us close. Our offense, we finally ran the ball with more commitment yesterday.
More commitment,
47 times
that's fair.
We ran the ball, which gives me hope that we can be more consistent offensively, because to me, a run game is consistency, personified. That's what you need to be consistent. And then everything builds off of that. The play action, that's where it all starts. So I feel good that we're headed in the right direction. I feel good that we can keep it close. I know that we're in the tournament, so that gives us a chance.
Right. And by the way, and I'll just say this, not every team that makes the tournament is what I'd consider a Super Bowl contender.
We certainly are in a different tier. Yes.
Not the Saints. The Panthers and the Bucs are not. They're not Super Bowl contenders.
No,
they're not.
We feel like we are finally slowly ascending. I hope it starts to pick up speed, the ascension.
Yeah, I mean, it was only one game, but see, here's the thing, and I'll drive at this question. Was the 3-game losing streak in your mind, and maybe it's coupled with 2023, maybe some people think that's still on the table, and it by the way, it is, because you got to win more than one game to fend off 2023. If you remember, in 2023, they did have one win in the midst of losing 6 of 7. But are you so scared of what happened in 2023 and so turned off by what happened over the last 3 weeks prior to this last game that you think the Eagles aren't a Super Bowl contender? Like that really, James, that shocked me yesterday.
Yeah, I think people have gone way too far.
Way too far.
Going in the dumps. And I think it is because 2023 happened and there were similar themes with the AJ and Jalen stuff and this and that.
Yes.
There are things you can point to.
And the offense breaking down.
Yes, and it just happened. It just happened. Same head coach, same quarterback. But look, to your point, yeah, they won a game then. It wasn't 31-0 where they held them to 70 yards or whatever the hell it was.
Right.
Like they won that game in a way that they didn't win many games in 2023, period. Like, I don't know if they won a single game in 2023 as dominantly as they won that football game.
Probably not.
Right? So, I get it that it's the Raiders, but they absolutely and totally owned the Raiders. Like, they're an NFL football team. Like, these stats, I said I think the Raiders are the worst team in football. 1965 or whatever, 1955 for yards for the Eagles. Like, they're still an NFL football team. They still dominated them in a way that NFL football teams rarely get dominated.
So let me ask this question, James, to you. Why did 40% of people say, because I'm stunned by this, why did 40% of people say we think our team's not a Super Bowl contender?
I think because it's one game and it's just the Raiders, and people are still
mad.
in that.
People are mad.
People are mad, and they're saying, and it was a lose-lose, the Raiders game, because everyone was going to say, oh, if the world is coming to an end if you lose.
But they didn't win by 3.
And if you win, I understand. If you win, no amount of points can make you feel like, okay, that Raiders team was visibly the worst team I've seen in years.
I agree with that.
I can't believe how bad they've gotten.
I agree with that.
And there's just nothing redeeming that they're bringing to the game.
Rhea, am I being Pollyanna here today, or am I talking with some sense?
You always do kind of skew towards Pollyanna, and I don't. I'm not surprised by the 40%. I think it's exactly what James and John have talked about. The people looked less at the Raiders game, which it was 31-0. They didn't scrape by them.
Right.
They dominated them from start to finish to the point where they were able to sit most of their starters for the fourth quarter in a game that took 2.5 hours. So I think you should put stock in that. But I think people look at the previous 3. They collapsed against the Cowboys.
Yep.
That was brutal. 21-0.
Yep.
The Chargers game, it's 5 turnovers. It led to all kinds of questions about Jalen Hurts. And the Bears game was concerning in that the defense got run over. And the defense has been really terrific. It is, I think, a Super Bowl defense. So no, I'm not surprised it was 40%.
So curious where you stand as you listen to us on this Tuesday morning, 215-592-9494. Which side of the ledger do you come down on? The 60% that vibes with where I'm at, that thinks they are, a legit Super Bowl contender despite the 3-game losing streak, or the 40% that says no. Again, I'll ask you, why or why not do you stand on which side of that ledger? 215-592-9494. I mean, guys, I get that the 3-game losing streak was brutal, and I get that they're not out of the woods. I'm not going to tell you they're totally out of the woods. I'm not foolish enough to say I believe in this passing attack and all that sort of stuff, and I know definitively they'll be able to run the ball like last year. I don't know that, but I also know this. There's no behemoth this year in pro football.
Exactly.
There's not. And they got 9 wins, probably on their way to 11 or 12. I mean, come on.